Hello, folks. Dustin Zarni here, Democratic Elections Commissioner for Onondaga County, and welcome to Commissioner in the Car. Today is Tuesday. It's April 23rd, and this is the What's in the New York State Budget for Elections edition of Commissioner in the Car. Late last week, New York State passed its budget, and we had been hearing rumors and one-house budgets about everything that's in the budget or what's not in the budget for New York State elections, but now we know. And there are 5 areas I'm going to talk about today, which has to do with New York State elections and the New York State budget. That 3 areas that have direct funding to local county boards of elections. That is the Postage Grant, the Poll Book Replacement Grant, and the Aid to Localities Grant. And then there are 2 things that are election-related spending, and that's the Public Campaign Finance Board and the John Flattew voter election database. Those are what's in the budget that will affect campaigns this year or the Finance Board. On top of that, obviously the New York State Board of Elections is funded directly out of the New York State budget, as it's a state agency, not a county agency like the county boards. But suffice it to say, I'm not really covering their budget all that much because they got everything they wanted. They requested a full funding of their budget, and this is something that actually has been really good under Governor Hochul, not as much under the previous governor, Cuomo, but Governor Hochul has fully funded this New York State Board of Elections at the levels that they want. They've gotten the staffing that they need to ramp up all of the needs that they have for the various functions that they do. They do campaign finance. They do all of the, the compilation of the data for elections that run beyond the county lines, the petitions for those that run beyond the county lines. They handle a lot of the campaign, a lot of the grant funding that has come through the federal government in New York State. So they have a pretty hefty budget, and they've been fully funded the last few years. So bravo to Governor Hochul and the legislature on that. So I'm not going to talk about that much more than what I just said. But let's get into the what we know now is in the budget, definitely in the budget, signed into law, are 3 different grants that directly will go to county boards of elections, including Onondaga County. We'll go with the largest one first, and that is the Poll Book Replacement Grant. $14.7 million. This came out of the governor's budget. It was also in both one-house budgets for the Assembly and the Senate. And what it is there for is that 5 years ago, the New York State boards started implementing electronic poll books. These are the iPads that you see at the polling places throughout New York, but in Onondaga County, they're at every polling place, Election Day and early voting. And those electronic poll books are now 5 years old, especially the ones bought in 2019, although some of the ones bought in 2020 are what we call the 6th generation iPads. The 6th generation iPads are, at 5 years old, they're starting to become older than what the next version of iOS will support. Those of you, by the way, it's kind of a growth thing for me. I'm not an Apple guy. I'm recording this on an Android. I've never been an Apple guy. But in 2019, I became an Apple guy at the Board of Elections because all of the electronic poll books that we have throughout New York State, or I should say most of it, the 2 poll book companies, No Ink and 10X, have iPads I think Robus has Windows-based laptops, but because of that, these iPads use iOS, which is the operating system for Apple, to keep it secure, have the secure updates on it. And we have been told that the next version of iOS, the iOS 18, right now we're on iOS 17, but the next version of iOS that is going to come out will not support 6th generation iPads. That means that all the iPads that we bought in 2019 and a lot through 2020 will no longer be supported on the next version of iOS that will come out in 2025. You didn't know this was going to be a tech podcast, but it is for this, because I wanted to explain why this money is necessary now. Because many of the boards are not going to replace their pads this year, but they're going to start replacing them in January to get ready for next year's elections, because the newest version of iOS will not be supporting these 6th generation iPads that we all bought in 2019. So we need to buy the newest iPads. I think for Onondaga County, we have about 600 iPads that we deploy. I think we looked at it, and we're going to need about 470 of them are going to need to be replaced. That's pretty expensive when we're talking about $200 a pad, right? So this money, the poll book replacement money, will go to replacing the pads and the peripherals around them, so they can be the newest pads and remain. The most important thing, it's not about getting new pads and just having newfangled stuff. It's about keeping them secure. And that's what we need, to keep them secure with the iOS, so they cannot be hacked. This is one of the few things that in election equipment, these poll books are connected to the internet. They have to be, so they can talk to each other, and so they can talk to the home base to prevent people from voting more than once, especially during early voting. So that is $14.7 million. It's quite a big number. And any of these grants where that number is being thrown about, they're usually dispersed based on voter population. Onondaga County is one of the top counties in New York State. I think we're in top 10 out of the 62 in terms of registered voters. You got your 5 counties in New York City: Suffolk, Nassau, Westchester, and Monroe and Erie ahead of us, and then we come in after that. So maybe 11, 12, depending on what where everything is right now. We're ahead of Albany. We're ahead of other areas, but so we're going to get a decent amount of this money to be able to do this, and also change out not only just the pads, but the receipt printers and these kind of things that go along with it. So we're really excited about that. The next, I'm going in order of dollar amount. The next amount is $7.7 million for the Postage Grant. A couple years ago, the New York State Legislature passed a law that changed the way absentee ballots were. They were absentee then. They're early voting by mail / absentee now. But back then, they changed the way absentee ballots were paid for. They changed that. They said that all mailing of ballots or anything to do with early vote or absentee balloting had to be cost paid by the boards of elections. So that means if we mailed an application to the to a citizen, we had to give them a postage paid envelope for them to mail their application back. If we mailed a ballot to a citizen, we had to provide a postage paid envelope to mail that ballot back. This was an important step, and it actually really made mail-in balloting, I think, more easy for boards of elections and also for the voters, because who has stamps nowadays? Students and elderly people. Even 50 cents to get a stamp can be a barrier for those who might be poor, but also it prohibited people from just getting their ballot, filling it out, putting it in the mail that day. They had to go to the postage office, make sure they got a stamp, that kind of thing. And I think we really saw an uptick in return rates of absentee ballots, even in low turnout elections, because of that. So, but what New York State did when they changed this is they said that they would have a permanent fund for postage related to that, which is the Postage Grant. But this Postage Grant isn't just for that postage, because there are more opportunities for mail-in balloting now with the ubiquitous ability to apply online. You can apply online for an absentee, and the increase in the early voting by mail statute, and more people voting by mail instead of voting in person. Many of the counties throughout the state, and we're looking into this as well, use a vendor to mail out those ballots, because even in a low turnout election like this last presidential primary, we ended up mailing out well over 6,000 ballots. That's a lot for a small board like us. So we are, we can use the Postage Grant to work with vendors to mail out the ballots to voters. We would still receive all the ballots back and do that kind of processing. But that Postage Grant can be used for that. It can be used for equipment, for sorting ballots, and also for the processing on the back end. So those Postage Grants are not just about postage. It's also about the other things that are available. So that's the Postage Grant. Then I'm going to go to the aid to localities. There's $5 million in aid to localities. Aid to localities is a term that basically allows for and we're going to wait and see what the actual grant says when it comes out of this New York State board. But this money is meant for administering the 2024 general election. So, presidential elections, as is 2024, is a different beast. It's something that is unique in the 4-year cycle. We're talking many more voters, many more voter registration, many more absentee ballots, and all of that stuff means we need more people at the Board of Elections. But we may not need those people year-round. I mean, I think we need those people all the time, but that's a whole nother story that I'm not really going to spend much time on today. But we definitely need temporary workers for a presidential election. And temporary, and then, of course, at our polling places, we need more inspectors than we normally would field, because we want to make sure that these polling places are taken care of as well, and that there's not as much wait time and all of that. So all of that is a one-time need every 4 years. And so this aid to localities funding, $5 million in total, will help offset those temporary workers and temporary poll workers for this 2024 presidential election. So it's very much needed and welcome. This actually kind of came out of the legislature, not the governor. The governor's budget did not have this in there, but the legislature, both the one houses in the Senate and the Assembly, had $10 million in there. Ended up being $5 million. That's the way things go. Big props to the Senate and the Assembly for sticking up for local county boards. Myself, many other people wrote and testified saying we need this money. They listened, and it's going to be welcome money, especially for smaller, under-resourced boards that need this money to be flexible going into the 2024 general election. So those are the 3 grants that are that have been passed for local county boards of elections. There's two other things that I wanted to talk about that are in the budget that's election related, but not directly to the county boards of elections. The first is the Public Campaign Finance Board. You may have heard this a lot. I've had a lot of Zoom and Zarnies about this. New York this year is rolling out its first ever public campaign finance board program. This is taking big money out of politics by matching small donors that are inside in political subdivisions that are donating to the candidates inside their own political subdivision and matching them up to 7 times. These politicians that are running for office aren't chasing big dollar donors, and if they have a lot of small contributions from inside the district, they can amplify their money and be able to stay in the district fundraising and campaigning instead of doing national fundraisers or trying to get lobbyist or corporate money. It doesn't stop lobbyist and corporate money, but it does give a chance to those who don't want to do it or don't want to do as much of it to be able to match that funds and have the resources to run for office. So there's over $100 million that have been put into this program this year. The Senate, the Assembly, and are the races that are benefiting from that this year. And in 2 years from now, all the statewide offices like governor, comptroller, lieutenant governor, and will benefit. What doesn't benefit are Congress and U.S. Senate that's running this year. Those are federal offices and are not part of the Campaign Finance Board. But still, advocates have been wanting a full funding of this program, and they got it. I think it's over $100 million will go to the matching funds, and about $14 million of administrative costs, and that's being run by the New York Public Campaign Finance Board, which is a part of the New York State Board of Elections, it's a great program. I'm excited to see what the benefits are to New York's electoral politics with that today. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is the Dr. John Flateau New York database. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it doesn't get effective till 2026. But there was $2.5 million in it to create this database under the New York State Board of Elections. And this is going to be a big benefit for nerds like myself who want data and haven't been able to get that data in recent years, because a lot of times, these races, they run over multiple counties boards. Different counties have different resources for being able to get this election data. And so this big database is going to pull all the data, most of which data that we already give to the New York State Board of Elections in our annual reports. So we already give this data to them, and they're going to compile it all into one place and have historical data all in one place. And, the New York State Board has already been amping up their past election results. But if you want to find out a race in 1932 in Jefferson County, well, my friends in Jefferson County already have that on their website. But most other county boards don't. I only go back to 1945. So if there's data available, they're going to be able to give it to you. And you can have one-stop shopping for this data. It's a great program. There is a little not controversy, but there's another piece of this, which was the academic piece. There was another $2.5 million that was cut out of the budget that would have created a SUNY CUNY academic center to study this data and have academic research on this data. That was not in the budget. It's possible that because this doesn't take effect till 2026, that is going to come in the 2025 budget. We've seen this before, with other programs that are phased out over a long time. Sometimes they don't fully fund it right away. They fund it later on. We saw this with the public campaign finance, for example. The funding of it didn't come all up front. They waited till the year it was effective, and that's what they did. Or they may be leaving that aside. I don't know. There's going to be a lot. But you know what? Hope springs eternal. The New York State Legislature isn't done yet. Now, there were a few things left out of the budget that we were hoping for and heard rumors of. Eric is one of them, not a guy named Eric, but the interstate compact that has been in the news a lot. It's a cross-voting database. New York is not a part of ERIC, has never been a part of ERIC, and we were hoping to put money in there to compel New York to be a part of ERIC, because it is one of the few places where we can get cross registration data that will get people, get the voter rolls cleared up. So we're really hoping that maybe the New York State Legislature will pass that by the end of this session. There's still about 6 weeks left in session. They come back May 6th, and they go until June. There's a lot of work being done on bills that are going to still be passed, so that could be one of them. And that goes to answer my friend David's question in the chat. Can the legislature pass bills? They absolutely will pass a lot of bills between now and the end of their session in June. I guarantee you there will be a lot of bills passed. Will more election bills be a part of it? I hope so. I really do hope so. I'll be working hard to make that happen as well. So, if things didn't make the budget, we live to fight another day, and there's a lot of things that aren't necessarily going to make the budget that will be part of the closing part of this session. So that's all I really got for you today in Commissioner Carr. This week, Zoom and Zarni on Friday with Marty Masterpole, Onondaga County Comptroller. We taped this episode yesterday. It's a great discussion about his running for re-election and what he's hoping to do in his second term. Weekly walk this weekend will be New York State. I'm getting back into the political subdivisions that are having elections this year. We're having an election for U.S. Senate, and so we will do that. And then finally, next Tuesday, my commissioner in the car will focus on where we are in terms of the June primary and the petition challenges that are going on at the New York State Board of Election. By then, we'll really kind of have an idea of exactly where all the primaries are, not in Onondaga County, but also at the New York State Board of Elections, because the petition challenges will all be over, and we'll see if there's anything that's going to court. So that's what next Tuesday will be about as we're getting ready for the June primary. And we do also have a village election in June, the Village of Liverpool. One of these commissioner cards will be about that as well. So take care and enjoy your week. Bye-bye.